Good evening. All right. Imagine a child, barely a teenager, lured with gifts and attention and promises of belonging only to be passed between strangers, drugged, raped, and then discarded. Not once, not in secret, but systematically across different towns, different cities, and for decades. And numbers like hundreds or thousands can blur into abstraction. But scale this horror to an estimated 250,000 vulnerable British girls, many as young as 11, targeted, groomed, trafficked, and subjected to gang-based sexual exploitation on British soil. That is the population of a mid-sized city. It is the weight of a national wound that official systems were built to prevent, yet repeatedly failed to address. We're going to jump into this tonight on Breaking the System.
The curtains rise, the lights burn bright. You're blinded now, can't see the fight. Smoke and mirrors, they lead the way. Fooling hearts night after day. Welcome to the show, it's all pretend. The smiles, the lies, the perfect end.
That intro is so catchy. I actually built that intro on AI, so wrote it out, tweaked it. So let's jump into this. Welcome to Breaking the System, episode 73, I do believe, and it's called The Grooming Gangs Scandal. And today we're examining that in the United Kingdom. A system of child protection, police, social services, councils, health authorities, and government oversight that confronted organized networks of abuse but often prioritized other concerns over intervention. We'll trace its history with documented inquiries and reports and explore how cultural, bureaucratic, and data-related frictions allow it to persist, and hopefully leave you with questions about institutional accountability in every society, in any society, right? No prescriptions, just the record for you to weigh into, all right? So first, let's look at the historical context, from localized cases to a national reckoning. And remember, this we're talking about over in the United Kingdom, the UK. So the patterns emerged publicly in the late 2000s and early 2010s, though evidence suggests roots stretching back further. High-profile prosecutions in places like Rotherham, Rochdale, Oxford, and Telford revealed organized groups often operating from takeaways, taxi firms, or through street grooming, targeting vulnerable girls, frequently from troubled homes or in care. Victims were groomed with alcohol, drugs, and affection before being shared among networks, blackmailed with recordings, and trafficked between locations. And so we're going to jump into this, but this is just another example of like the Epstein files, right? And how sick and perverse we humans actually are, that we go after the vulnerable, not necessarily the weak, because these girls, these young women, haven't even had the chance to grow up and to be something. And we'll get into this, but a lot of these girls are targeted around the age of 11. So I find it just really disgusting and appalling how bad and vile humans can be when we actually like start peeling away the onion, so to speak, of societies. And it's not just one society. I think this happens, unfortunately, in a lot of societies, right? And, so one thing we have to look at and one thing we have to ask ourselves as we're peeling away these pieces of the onion is why? Why does this happen? Why do we let this happen, right? Is there any way that we can change to where this doesn't happen? Because we're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands of young ladies, right? And like I said, this is just in the United Kingdom. This may tie into the Epstein files, probably not, but those high-profile people, they all run in the same circle. So some of these girls could have been in that. But let's jump into this, okay? Let's look at Rotherham from 1997 to 2013. Professor Alex Jay's 2014 independent inquiry estimated at least 1,400 children were exploited, predominantly by British Pakistani men. It detailed failures by police and council to act on reports, citing concerns over racism accusations and community relations. So, let's get this straight. The police didn't want to do anything because of people saying that they would be racist towards certain people. Like, if the same people are doing the same things in multiple cities, like, it's not racism to say that they are the problem, no matter if they're white, black, brown, whatever they are. Statistics don't lie. The numbers don't lie. And if those are the ones, those are the people that are causing the problems, who cares? Community relations, right? Get rid of the problem, and the community is going to relate to that by being able to go out and take their kids shopping or go to the park or go for a walk and not have to worry about their 11-year-old daughter getting drugged and raped and kidnapped, right? Just is what it is. Like, let's think about these things. Let's look at Rochdale. Convictions in 2012 involved men of Pakistani heritage exploiting girls. Reviews highlighted dismissed victim testimonies with girls labeled as prostitutes or unreliable. Similar inquiries in Telford of up to around 1,000 victims over decades and elsewhere has also followed. Okay? So once again, it's all about the definition that we're applying to words. And of course, this definition is that these young girls, they're unreliable and they're being labeled as prostitutes. No matter what they say, like, doesn't matter what you say because you're unreliable and you're a prostitute, so we're not going to take anything at face value. That's very disheartening, right? Like, we should really look into this, okay? Let's look at the broader inquiries. The independent inquiry into the child sex abuse, the LLCSA, or the IICSA, sorry, and the Home Office studies, and Baroness Louise Casey's 2025 National Audit on Group-Based Child Sexual Exploitation documented reoccurring themes: underreporting, poor data on perpetrator ethnicity and culture, information sharing failures between agencies, and hesitation linked to fears of inflaming community tensions. All of those things are ridiculous, right? I think they are, just my opinion. What's your opinion? But I think if we're underreporting these things, we have to let the people know, the public know that, hey, if this is going on, report this, and we as an agency, whether it's the police or whoever it is, are going to take care of this, and we're going to look into this as being a serious accusation. And of course, if you're throwing a false flag, then you need jail time for that. You need persecuted for that as well, right? So if you're saying that these things are happening to you and you're lying, then maybe you should go to jail for being a liar, right? And I think there's a lot of people that are scared, and so they don't report. And so that leads to poor data on how young are these girls that are being abducted, what cities, what places, what parts of town, who is the perpetrator, what ethnicity are they, what culture do they belong to. Those are all very, very important things. Not in, once again, racially profiling someone, but once again, if that demographic in that particular society is causing issues, then we need to take a step back and we need to look at those people under a magnifying glass and be like, okay, well, we're going to put more police in this area. We're going to do this. We're going to do that because we're going to cut down on these people being hurt for the rest of their lives, right? And so I think that's a big thing. And so official tallies captured only fragments, hundreds of recorded group-based offenses annually amid hundreds of thousands of total child sexual abuse cases due to narrow definitions of underreporting and inconsistent reporting. Independent estimates and survivor accounts painted a far wider picture across dozens of localities. And from 2025 to 2026, momentum grew with public pressure from whistleblowers and figures like MP Rupert Lau's survivor-led gang rape inquiry. And in June of this year, the report mapped activity across 149 plus local authority districts, compiled survivor testimonies, and estimated a cumulative scale reaching 250,000 victims since the mid-20th century, emphasizing predominantly Pakistani heritage Muslim networks, with some from others from similar backgrounds who viewed non-Muslim, often white British girls as culturally available. It highlighted racial and religious targeting dynamics reported by the survivors. The report, like prior ones, stressed that most communities and ethnic groups were not involved. The issue centered on specific offending patterns and responses to them. So once again, the data doesn't lie, right? It's not like we're making this stuff up. Statistics matter, once again, okay? And so I think at this point, just from the information that we've gotten so far, is that it's saying that the police and the courts and the people that we vote into these positions of power, they don't want to do anything to protect the people that they serve because they're afraid of the response that they're going to have with that. That's a head scratcher. Like, that makes me sit back and wonder, like, that's why people want to defund the police, right? Because they're not doing their job. We have to keep the kids safe, and it starts here. It starts by getting rid of these people, however we get rid of them, and that's another topic that we can talk down, another rabbit hole that we can go down, okay? Get rid of them so they're not repeat offenders, okay? There's patterns, and there's a way that we can respond to those patterns, and how are we doing that? So let's look at the system's mechanics, protection versus paralysis. Child protection systems exist to detect vulnerability, to investigate patterns, to prosecute offenders regardless of background or safeguard to the victims, right? And in this case, multiple layers faltered or failed. The police and social services, they failed, right? They had all of the reports of girls missing from care and collecting by older men, or showing injuries. STIs were often downplayed. Some reviews found active avoidance of Asian perpetrator descriptions to prevent racism labels. Wait. So they're saying that it was Asian people, so the police were saying that it was Asian perpetrators because they didn't want to get racism on the people that were actually doing it. Kind of funny how that works, isn't it? And then we also have the data and the definitions. Group-based child sexual exploitation lacked uniform tracking. Ethnicity data was inconsistently gathered or emphasized, collecting pattern recognition. Broader child sexual abuse stats dwarfed specific figures, allowing minimization. So what that's saying is, like, a lot of these organizations, they don't talk to one another, and when they do talk to one another, one has a different definition of what they're talking about than the other one has, and so the data's not jiving based off of the definitions that we're giving to those words or to the responses to those words, right? That's an issue. That's a huge issue. And then, of course, the last one they're looking at that is protection versus paralysis is the institutional incentives. Fear of community unrest, media backlash, or career persecutions reportedly outweighed aggressive pursuit. Cultural sensitivities around multiculturalism clashed with evidence-based policing. Agencies sometimes returned victims to environments of risk or failed to share intelligence across borders. Oh my God, I don't think there can be anything more scary than having someone that would repeatedly beat you or harm you or rape you, and then you tell authorities, and authorities do what? They put you right back in the very system, in the very environment that you told the police or whoever was hurting you. And they throw you right back in there. Like, what a scary world that is. Because you've already done what you thought you were supposed to do. Like, you told the people that were going to protect you, and not only did they not protect you, they handed you right back to your handler. They handed you right back to the person that is abusing you, to the person that is raping you, that is harming you. That's got to be the scariest thing ever, right? And I don't know, like, for all of you out there that have even sons, let's just talk about kids in general, sons and daughters, anyone that's 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, right? That is our future generation. We have to protect those kids. We have to stop the criminality, because that's what they are. And it doesn't matter what race or religion or where they're from. A criminal is a criminal. And if you let them keep doing what they do, they're going to become a repeat offender because, oh, the police aren't going to do anything. Oh, the public's not going to do anything, right? Yeah, that's what has happened in this case, okay? And so this wasn't universal incompetence. Many officers and workers pushed for action, but systemic frictions created blind spots. Official responses evolved with training, better data efforts, and prosecutions. Hundreds were arrested, convictions secured over years. Yet critics argued the scale of acknowledgement lagged reality. And so, like, why aren't we blasting this all over the news? Like, shouldn't this be like one of the most important things? Let parents know, hey, this kid's gone. Or, not saying any names, but there's a kid that had something happen on this street. We're not going to go into like any details, but know where your kids are at, protect them, like have some parental guidance, like talk to your kids, don't talk to stranger, put all of those things in, like let them know. Let the public know that these perpetrators, right, the wolves in sheep clothing, are out there, and who they're targeting and why they're targeting and what is going on, right? And it's like that is a huge red flag, right, that the critics are arguing about. And so the 2026 independent report amplified calls for severe measures. Maybe look at longer sentences, deportations for foreign nationals, citizenship reviews for dual nationals. I don't understand dual nationalists. Like, you're either from the country or you're not. Like, that's a whole other topic, but I just don't think that you should be a dual citizen, dual nationalist. I don't believe in it. So, but just my personal opinion. And they need to look into probes into the enablers, right? Who is enabling these people to get away with what they're getting away with? And so it framed the failures as a betrayal where ideology or risk aversion shielded the predators, right? This has happened in the United States as well, not as severe, but it has in the Epstein files. But also look in Illinois where they have, what is it? I forget what the thing is called that Governor Pritzker signed off onto. But basically, if you're caught doing something and it's not like murder, you are booked, set free, and they give you a little card saying, show up at this courthouse at this time. Like, you are a criminal. And within 24 hours, you're back on the street to do whatever the hell you want to do. I don't understand that. Why are we shielding the predators? Why are we giving predators multiple chances? Why are we setting them free to hunt for their next victim within 24 hours? Like, who votes for this stuff? It makes no sense whatsoever, right? And I realize the whole argument for that, we're kind of getting off topic here just a little bit, but the whole argument for that is that yes, there are some people that are discriminated against because of skin color, because of this or because of that or whatever. But are more people being hurt because we're setting those predators free? Those offenders that are going to be repeat offenders, and they are. I mean, look at some of the jail dockets. People that's been arrested 10 times, 15 times, 25 times for doing the exact same thing. Like, you gave them a second chance, they wasted it, put them away. But that's not what happens, okay? We've got to stop shielding the predators, and we have to start protecting the young children, okay? Counterpoints from official audits note that child sexual abuse is overwhelmingly intrafamiliar or by lone offenders, often white British. That group-based cases are rare relative to total abuse, and that many systemic issues, whether if it's funding, training, coordination, cooperation, right, all of that affects all of the safeguarding, and it's not just this pattern. Progress includes mandatory reporting pushes and aggregated offenses. Like, yeah, there should be more funding for this stuff. There should be more training for this stuff. There should be more cooperation and coordination for this stuff. And part of that, again, is like we said earlier, taking a step back as a politician, as someone that's been voted into office, is getting this information out to the public so that we, the public, can make informed decisions as to where our kids are allowed to go, who our kids are allowed to hang out with, who they should be watching for, right? What time of day or night they're allowed to go at this place or to this place or to what, right? As parents, we need to know that stuff, okay? And so are we looking at a broken shield here? So the grooming gangs scandal exposes how any protective system designed with noble intent can erode when internal pressure, whether if it's through bureaucratic caution, cultural taboos, or data gaps, override its core function. Impartial defense of the vulnerable. History shows inquiries repeating similar diagnoses for over a decade, and whether the response now matches the documented harm will shape trust in institutions for generations. Yeah. If you don't feel protected by the police, are you going to go back to the police? If you don't feel protected by child protective services, are you going to go back to those people? Right? Probably not, because that trust has been broken, right? And that is a huge issue, okay? And this isn't unique to Britain. Parallels exist globally. It's all over the place where authorities hesitate on sensitive cultural or ethnic patterns in crime, from honor-based violence to other exploitation networks. We just talked about what's it called? The Safety Act that happens in Illinois. And I'm sure there's other states that have something similar to that, where it's, oh, you're a bad criminal, don't do that again. Here, go free, show up to your court date, but you're a criminal. What? Once again, who is voting for this stuff, right? Okay? And so the tension is universal, balancing social cohesion with unflinching truth and justice. So we're going to end with our critical thinking question like we always do. In a diverse society, how should institutions weigh the risk of inflaming tensions or appearing biased against the imperative to name observable patterns in crime data and protect the innocent without exploitation? I don't know. That's a big one. It's a huge one. How do we say that if there's a problem, how do we say that it's because of white people? Or how do we say that it's because of black people? Or how do we say that it's because of Christians or Asians or Muslims or whatever it is without pissing those people off? And sometimes you can't. Right? Sometimes I think you just gotta piss in the pot and see what happens and flush it all down and start new. You can't make everybody happy all the time, but at least the 11-year-old girl won't be abducted or gang raped or exploited over and over and over and over, right? Just like a piece of meat. It's disgusting, right? So we get to think about these things. What mechanisms best ensure accountability when systems prioritize harmony over evidence? Where's all the people now? Look at the evidence. Look at the evidence. Follow the evidence, right? Follow the science, right? If the evidence is pointing to that particular person or that particular group, harmony is out the window at that point. Do what needs to be done, right? And what should breaking this cycle require in practice, right? Because we got to practice these things to make them perfect. Like nothing is perfect. No system is perfect. Nobody is perfect, no matter how we would like to believe, right? But we have to practice those things out, okay? Because practice makes perfect. That's what we was taught. So those are our critical thinking questions for tonight. If you want to hear them again, rewind, play it again, think about those. We have to start critically thinking about things that are happening within the systems that's happening within the world and all around us, right? It's kind of a bad topic for tonight, but it's one that we got to be thinking about. We got to protect the kids. The kids are the most vulnerable of the society. The kids are our future. They need to know that we are there for them and that we are protecting them at all costs. At all costs. So with that, thanks for listening to Breaking the System. Subscribe, reflect, and question the structures around us. And until next time, peace, God bless, and good night.
Yeah. It don't rot overnight, you know. It fades.